Join Lizzie Rose, Tahil Gesyuk, and Gabriel llhewellyn-ari as they come together to enlighten all sexual identities and shift the partnership paradigm. Welcome to Revolutionary Romance.
Hello, hello, and blessings. Welcome to Revolutionary Romance. We are so excited to bring you another edition of this show where our mission is to help to bridge, like the intro told you, the partnership paradigm. And what we're doing is we are three differing sexual identities, and we're coming together and we're talking about dating, and we're talking about sex, and we're talking about a lot of stuff that comes up. And really what usually happens is we discover that we basically all kind of are going through the same thing. So we have an exciting show for you today. I'm very excited, and I know my other two co-hosts here, Tahil Gesyuk, who is our self-proclaimed resident relationship coach, and our beautiful Lizzie Rose as well, are excited to share with you. But first, we have some announcements that I just want to share with you. First of all, thank you to everyone who listened to our first show. We've had such a great response to this show, and I am personally so excited to be a part of this and to be on board with these other two ambassadors of love and light. And yes, just thank you for listening and for your feedback, which we'll share with you in just a moment here. I also want to say that next month we have someone else joining us. We've had quite a bit of feedback from a few different folks saying, hey, can you get a straight woman on the show, please? Like, I don't feel represented. And guess what? We do. And you know what? It is someone who is going to be so perfect because she's already on Realms Radio, and in fact, almost all of you know her. It is our very own Lizzie B. Love, host of Bridging Heaven and Earth, is going to be joining us here on Revolutionary Romance, starting next month in April. So do look for that, and look out for that. But today we are here, and we're going to be talking about sex and everything that comes up between differing sexual identities in that partnership paradigm. So let's officially start the show. Maybe I'll turn it over to my wonderful co-hosts so they can say hello, and then we will begin with our opening circle. So, Tahil, do you want to say hello to your fans? You have so many fans that love you and think you're so great.
Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. I loved reading and hearing all the feedback that we got from the last show, and I can't wait to talk about sex and intimacy within different cultures that we have to share here.
Beautiful. And Lizzie.
Hello, hello. I'm also very excited to be here and excited to have just found out that the topic is sex. I definitely have plenty of experiences to share about sex, and I'm looking forward to sharing about that.
Wonderful. So let's begin with our opening circle. And maybe, Tahil, do you want to explain just a little bit about that real quickly?
Sure. The opening circle is a way to create sacred space. It's a way to get grounded and centered. And it's also a great way to practice connecting with people. You know, the model that we use for the program here is the same model that you can actually use in your personal life. If you practice letting go of two things you don't want, bringing in two things you do want, and then next time you're at a party and you want to say hello to someone, if you do that exercise inside you, you don't have to say it out loud unless you want to, But if you do that exercise and then you say hi, it's going to be a very different experience if you haven't done this opening. So as we're opening the circle, I encourage you to do the same within your own heart about letting go 2 things you don't want and bringing 2 things you do want.
Okay, so I guess I will begin with 2 things that I would like to let go of. So 2 things that I would like to let go of right now are perfection and criticism, self-criticism. And 2 things that I would like to bring in are freedom of expression and abounding joy.
Great. I let go of worry and anxiety. I bring in trust, wisdom, joy, love, and grace.
I'd like to let go of some overall tension and self-judgment, and also just a little bit of worry and criticism, thoughts that maybe I don't have so much to share. And I'd like to bring in abounding joy and just a lot of laughter and delight.
Amen to all of that, right? Yes. For those of you that listened to our first show, or actually it was in the after show of Revolutionary Romance, you heard about some of our homework that we had. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about our different homework that we did and what that looked like for us. So, Tahil, why don't you start? Teal's homework. Tahil had a double assignment, actually. He requested, actually, for himself to be immersed more in the gay male culture and as well as lesbian culture. And so he had 2 separate assignments, one from me and one from Lizzie, and he is going to tell you about that right now.
Okay, so I was a bad boy. I did not do all my homework, but I did some of the homework. So I actually saw it's gay sex in the 70s, and I was really shocked and surprised about how, I thought the 60s were a revolution in sexuality, but I had no idea the amount of freedom of sexual expression that occurred in with gay men in the 70s. I was truly inspired, and it got me to start thinking about some of the other conversations that we had earlier, Gabe, about how there's a lack of older gay men hanging out with younger gay men, and I realized that there's I'm guessing there might be a lack of mentorship that came from that era of freedom of expression around sexuality to what happened after AIDS. And so I am inspired to have more of that connection across the generational bridge in the queer culture, especially with gay men. And as far as talking to the couple, the lesbian couple that you guys recommended me to talk to, I didn't have a chance to talk to the couple, but I had a chance to talk to one half of the couple. And what I got from that was that the questions I would ask were about gender identification. Who would play the role of the masculine or the feminine in terms of dress and mannerisms and so forth. And what I found was that that was a challenge. It sometimes was, I asked, does it ever change? And what happens if one day you get up and you decide to be more femme instead of more butch? And how does that role play in terms of interacting with your partner? And luckily for this partnership that I was talking to, that happens every once in a while, and when it does, they find it really hot, right? But I'm guessing that might be up for a lot of people in the queer culture in terms of, this gender switcheroo that occurs. So I'm curious to talk about that more in today's show.
Wonderful. Thank you. So Lizzie, let's hear about your homework. I know she has shared some with me and Tahil already about her homework, and I think I'm really excited to listen in with you guys right now to her homework.
Thanks, Gabe. My homework was to actually go somewhere, like a social setting of some kind, and just openly say that I'm single and that I'm a lesbian. And what I did was I went to this organization called One Taste in San Francisco, and they help people a lot to do a lot of sexual healing and practice certain meditations that assist with that sort of thing. And they also once a week have a free night where people can come in and just find out some of what they do, and also just socialize and just play these different games that really assist people to be authentic and connect. And so during one of the games where we were just going around the circle, that was one of the things I said, just that I'm single and I'm a lesbian. And it felt really good to say that, actually. After that, it seemed that during free times when I was able to just talk and socialize with people, it just seemed that that they had that awareness right off the bat, and it wasn't like an extra energy hanging in the air, like a wondering, or at some point, we would talk about this. It was more like I knew that the people approaching me knew that, and it seemed to. It seemed to bring conversations kind of just right to that more, right to that part of me. I guess it's not like there were any hidden agendas or anything. It was just, it's kind of like I was just able to be a little more present, and that's what I experienced with that. So it was a really interesting assignment. It was a good introductory assignment, I would say so.
First of all, I just want to say I'm so proud of you for doing that. And what I'm curious about is that when you did that, how did it feel in terms of your awareness of when you said that you were available, did you have more people approach you in terms of wanting to get to know you more on a romantic level?
Yes, I would say so. On that particular day, maybe not as much on that particular day, actually, but I came to One Taste on a different night, and there was definitely a woman who seemed to be expressing interest in me, and I hadn't made that specific declaration that night, but it kind of seemed like I think I said other things during the circle that might have implied that, but it was just having myself in that sort of environment where people were being upfront about their sexual orientations and their availability, and they were clearly in an environment where they wanted to go deeper with their sexuality. Just being in that environment seemed to facilitate drawing in women who would be interested.
Yeah. So what I usually tell my clients is that you have to be in it to win it. It's in dating, if you're in the dating world, you have to let people know that you're dating. Dating is not a dirty word. It is a stepping stone to finding the intimacy and the love and the caring and the affection that we're all longing for. And the better we get a muscle in that, the more we can have access to the nurture that we all deserve.
Yes. Well, my homework was actually really simple. I think I had the easiest homework out of everybody. My homework was to approach, or not necessarily approach, was to engage with proper pacing with 5 people. And what you can do, if you don't know what that is, you can listen to our last show, our very first show on Revolutionary Romance, on realmsradio.net. and learn all about that. And I did that, and what I began to notice actually was that I started doing that with my friendships, with all the relationships in my life. I started to become a lot more conscious of where they were at and where I was at. And actually, in fact, there's someone who I got semi-involved with who really, we weren't at the same pacing at all. And that's great. I really got that, and he really got that. and it was great to just be aware that was up, where I think in the past I probably would have personalized it about myself and actually thought, well, maybe something's wrong with me. What am I doing wrong here? And so it was really, really, really great. One other thing that came up for me this last month or so has been, and actually we were all in this healing circle, and I was sharing about, I don't actually remember what I was sharing about, but Tahil had asked me, when I'm around people, or when I'm speaking my truth, when I'm letting other people know that I'm available for dating, do I make it clear that I would like to have a fairy tale, that I'm looking for a Prince Charming, actually, and he had me in this circle say that out loud, and it was really powerful. I realized first of all that, yeah, that actually is really what I want, and I also realized that I just wasn't. I also wasn't up for only that. I was up for dating too. I was up for getting to know people. Just because you're not my Prince Charming doesn't mean I don't want to get to know you. So that was really, really, really great. So anyone else have anything to say about their homework, or want to touch on that at all?
Let's see. So I found it interesting to see how, like, in New York and San Francisco, right, there was so much going on in the 70s, and it made me really start thinking about the power of fear and sexuality. And I'm sure that we're going to talk a little bit about that later on in the show, about how radically it shifts people in connecting with other people around sexuality. I mean, it was such a dramatic difference. Like, the trauma that goes along with the possibility of dying if you have a sexual act tremendously shuts down the libido in so many people. And so what I'm longing for is to have that sense of freedom, that sense of free expression, along with the responsibility that goes with understanding about getting tested, about STDs and so forth. We're going to get into this later, but there's been a kind of love-hate relationship with the dissemination of information around STDs for the last 100 years. What a lot of people don't know is that in the sex-positive world, there's been this dual-edged sword between sex positivity and STD scares and so forth. For many generations, the diseases or STD scares have been a way to control the populace around their sexual expression. And so what ends up happening is that, on the one hand, it's really important to be aware of the illnesses and diseases that are out there around sexuality. On the other hand, it's really important to get that should not be a deterrent for your owning of your sexual expression, because it is where you came from. It is the primary root of your own passion. And unfortunately, many people have, it's like that's the lock. when people are encouraged to open up their sexuality, the first lock that comes up for many people outside of sexual abuse and so forth is the STD scare. And this is what it brought up for me when I looked at the homework from the 70s, like how radically it shifted. I don't know about you guys, but for me as a straight man, one of the things that I appreciate most about gay men is how free they are with their sexuality, right? And after watching that, I realized how dramatically that shifted from the AIDS scare.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. That was wonderful. So, our show today is on sex. S-E-X. We all know what it is. Most of us have participated, but we're going to be talking about it today. And we're going to get juicy in all forms of that word. But before we get into our topic, actually, we have our dating tip of the week. And our dating tip of the week this month, is on transitioning into sex. So if you're dating someone and you're not having sex, when do we start having sex? And our relationship coach here, Tahil Gesyuk, is going to answer that. So Tahil, when do we start having sex when we're dating?
Good question. I think the first thing to get about all that is that when we're dating, there's a lot of strange rules out there that people have set up. Like the 3-date rule. Has anybody ever heard of that one? Right? Or like, there's something wrong with me if I slept with somebody on the first date. Wow, we haven't made out or had sex in like 3 months while we've been dating. Is there something wrong with that? There's all these things that what it boils down to is a sense of timing. And what I found in many of my clients is that there's a lack of a natural function of being present and aware of their own bodies around touch. Sexuality is an expression of body, mind, and spirit. And a lot of us are out of touch with the relationship within our own bodies, with our own mind, and with our own spirit. And when you're connecting to someone else, it's where it is that you're having a great conversation with yourself in is what you're going to be able to relate to that conversation with someone else. So for most of us, because we have a touch-starved culture, the first step is to understand your own bodies. The average European gets touched 100 times per hour more than the average American. We have a tremendous lack of touch. When I have a lecture hall full of people, the first thing I ask is, how many of you wish that you touched someone today and then decided not to? And about 90% of the people raised their hand. Like, we have this natural instinct to touch one another in affection, and yet we withhold because there's this collapse between intimacy and sexuality. It's naturally been just collapsed. There's no distinction between the two. I've been on a mission of affection and connection in the world. I hold these events that are called connection event and affection connect events, so that people can start learning how it is that they can be affectionate, connect with one another, be vulnerable with one another. When that happens, sexuality naturally arises with those that you actually are interested in. The problem is that many people have this thing where they want affection and touch, and they end up in bed with someone. Sometimes they end up, just getting touch when they really want sex. So there's all this confusion between sex and touch, intimacy, and the first thing is to get really clear what you're really hungry for. If you're hungry for sex, it's important that you know that you're hungry. And it's important to know that you're horny, because the biggest epidemic out there that I've seen in the sex-positive world is what I call unconscious permission. And there's nothing that leads to trauma and lockdowns in sexual performance than unconscious permission. Many of us have longings, but there's no clear communication to go along with it. So the first step is to learn how to be touching other people, how to be touched in an affectionate way without actually leading into a sexual experience. So one of the biggest things that I find myself saying over and over again with my clients is slow down. Just slow down. Because it's when you slow down, you can actually start figuring out when is the right timing to move forward. Right? And the art of making out has been lost in modern times because everybody just jumps into the sack. There's no holding hands. There's no affectionate hugs. There's no taking time to make out and for hours on end. There's no looking into your partner's eyes and saying, I want you. And they say the same and say, but I really want to savor this. Let's take our time. It's tremendously hot, and it builds a chemistry that is profound. And check this out. If you slow it down and you build that chemistry over time, you might find, 3 months from now, that person really wasn't right for you. And you'll be thanking yourself for actually not jumping to bed with that person. There's a way that it takes time to get to know one another. It takes time for your bodies to get to know one another. And it's important that you take your steps. So my biggest advice around how do you transition in the dating world into sexuality? Slowly. Get into being comfortable around touch. The biggest indicator for you that it is okay to take the next step from affection and connection to a sexual encounter is a relaxed jaw. Most of us end up going into a sexual experience in a nervous, apprehensive kind of way. It is bad timing when that occurs. It's a lack of understanding that there's a touch, there's an embrace, there's a connection first. When there's a connection and an embrace, an actual affection, connection, contact with another human being, you will be at ease and relaxed. You might be excited, but you will be at ease. Your belly will feel butterflies in your stomach, not a sense of your whole body locking up. That's the most horrible way to connect with someone. Then you end up fucking and not lovemaking. Something gets locked down. And then it will naturally happen. So that's the biggest advice I have. Slow down, relax your jaw, take deep breaths, learn how to have contact, and then let sexuality unfold versus being forced or locked up.
Great. Well, that was I think that was more than a dating tip, but that was just great. That was I felt like I got so much from that. I know Lizzie was over here with me like, yes, we agree, yep.
We agree. We relate.
Absolutely. So, our topic, sex. We're talking about sex here today. So what we're going to do to introduce our topic today on sex is me and Lizzie are going to be sharing just whatever is coming up for us now in our sex lives and talking about that for a little bit. But first, Tahil would like to say something. So Tahil, what's on your mind?
So first, what I like for all of us to do is take a deep breath. So everybody just breathe in nice and deep and let out a big sigh. Kind of move your jaw around, relax your jaw. A lot of things come up when people talk about sexuality. And how it comes up is usually the jaw starts to tighten up, which tightens up your pelvis, because that's where our sexual organs are. Our breathing gets to get locked up. So a lot of stuff comes up as we're going to be talking about this. I just want to remind everyone that 96% of us are born into dysfunctional families. 40% of us are born into sexual, physical, or emotional abuse. There's a tremendous amount of issues and challenges that come up as people talk about sexuality. And it's important that you stay breathing, that you keep your jaw relaxed, and be as honest as you can, but also just really notice in your bodies if something comes up for you. And all you have to do is just keep breathing and stay with it. All right, thank you.
Beautiful, thank you. So, we are relaxed here. We are so relaxed. So Lizzie, would you like to start first? What comes up for you around sex?
Let's see. Well, first I just want to thank Tahil for going through that whole relaxation exercise, because I definitely felt my body tensing up just being about to talk about all this sexual stuff. And I'm realizing that that's definitely come up for me a lot, especially with sexual experiences. Just talking about sex, my body starts to tense up a little bit. So it's amazing to think back on a lot of sexual experiences I had. If I just tuned in, loosened up, slowed down, used some of these fabulous tips we're getting today, I can only imagine how the whole experience would have flowed really differently, or we might not have even had sex at all, actually. So that's interesting for me to think about right now. As of right now, I'm really just going through a process of opening myself up more on a physical level for sexual experiences. I've been receiving some coaching in my life around sex, and actually some physical touching and massage, clitoral sort of massage, which has been really interesting, because it's not, this sort of thing is not about so much having a sexual experience. It's really more about connecting with my body, with what I'm experiencing, with my breath, and really with just like rewiring myself in a certain sense. So there's a lot of healing happening for me right now. As far as actual sexual encounters right now, there isn't a lot happening for me in that department, though I'm hoping to bring things in, but I'm also really looking to take my time with it right now. In the past, in some of my relationships, I think a lot of trauma from growing up. I'm definitely one of those people that had the physical abuse, the emotional abuse. That was actually a huge part of my childhood growing up, and I'm just starting to connect with that. I never would have called it abuse before, but just starting to, as I've been starting to connect with that, it's really obvious that that's what happened. I won't go too deep into that right now, but yes, a lot of that trauma, though, has been really related to how my sexual experiences have played out, and how me and my partner have treated each other, and our ability to respond to each other in certain situations when our wounds get really triggered and up in the air. So that's another thing I'm going through right now, is just really wanting to clear a lot of those wounds and beliefs which come up for me, which really affect how I interact and how I speak and how I relate, and what my physical body does. The one other thing that just came to me now, one thing that I'm really looking to get more into and clear, is that on a physical level, I've never been able to orgasm during sex with a partner, and I am able to on my own, though I wouldn't say I'm always the most relaxed when I do. I think I more often than not, I actually do tense up like quite a bit, even with I'm with myself sexually. So not always, but it definitely will be a practice to not have so many goals around climax, and to just go with the experience. And I can definitely think back on sexual experiences I had where it actually was more goalless and relaxed, and maybe we were in nature, or we were just making out a lot, and we were just enjoying it. And those were the best sexual experiences of my life. So I'm grateful that I have those experiences as well to draw from. And I'm also excited to see what might unlock and open up for me as I keep working with myself on a physical level around sexuality and also with orgasm.
Thank you for sharing all that. That was great. Oh, wow, I'm nervous. I'm nervous to talk about this right now. Oh, but that's great. That's great. It's fine. Where I am at in my sexual life right now is an interesting one. I have been abstinent for almost a decade. Almost 10 years I haven't had sex, and I can't believe it's been that long for me because I'm a very sexual being. I just, for me, really need to have a sacred connection with someone. I've thought about extensively about having casual sex, and do I want that? And of course my body does, but just my heart, I can't do it. I can't do it. And that's been interesting, to say the least, because I think sometimes when I start to date people or I meet someone who I'm semi-interested in and attracted to, I think because I'm so starving for that, I'm so starving for the intimacy, I think I rush that. Well, I know I rush that. And then that puts the other person in a place of feeling fearful or restraint or just unclarity about where I'm coming from. And so that makes them question the whole relationship, which then causes the end of the relationship. And so it's an interesting place that I'm at, especially being a gay man and wanting that, or identifying with being gay, I guess, and sort of being in the gay culture where it was like, yeah, you want sex, you just go and get it. And so a lot of the people who I meet or who are interested in me have been people who are just, they kind of want to go on dates and have sex, and like, I'm not up for that. I'm up for dating, and I'm up for getting to know people, and I'm totally up for intimacy anytime, really. But I'm not up for sex right away. I'm definitely like, I've for the last 10 years, probably even longer, I've really been practicing what Tahil just talked about in the dating tip, is like really taking things slow. And my experience is that a lot of men that I've been interested in or have been interested in me aren't really looking for that. And it's frustrating for me because I think sometimes I go into the story of there's something wrong with me when I know that's not true. I mean, yes, there's always parts of myself that I can improve, but that's not the reason that I don't have the kind of relationship that I want. It's just, well, I think it's a part of it too. It's part of, I definitely attract and create my whole life, including my love life. However, I have being gay, I have really seen that it's a challenge. It's been a challenge to meet someone else who wants what I want the way that I want it. And even here in San Francisco, where there's plenty of statistical possibility for me to acquire that, it's been interesting. And so that's a little bit about where I am at with sex and sexuality with myself right now. So Tahil, me and Lizzie, we're just dying to know what you have to say about sex and what you want to share, and just why we're talking about this month, because it's a crucial part of our love lives. But yeah, we're just dying to hear. So what do you have to say?
Well, first I just want to commend you both for having the courage to share to the audience and to me where you're at around sexuality. I don't think it's a topic that's really talked about in our culture. I think it's the lack of conversation about sexuality has been leveraged in advertising, in many different ways that kind of twist and pervert the naturalness and the healthiness of sexual expression. And so many of us are left confused and estranged from natural, healthy sex lives because the mirror that we view ourselves in is the media that we see around us. And if you happen to be queer, if you happen to have a healthy sexual appetite, it is very strange out there. You know, in the culture of women, if you're sexually empowered, you are policed by other women calling you the S word. You know, if you're a man, I've actually heard people say now that, like, if a man is sexually empowered, they call him a predator. It's the P word in the straight culture. You know, it's like there's all these different ways that in many different subsects of cultures that we have, no matter what your sexual orientation, there's this kind of cap on sexuality. There's a danger in sexuality. There's a fear in sexuality because it brings out wildness. It brings out freedom of expression. It brings out independence. It brings out creativity. And for a lot of the structures that we have as a civilization, that's a dangerous thing. You know, because a revolution is built on that wildness, sense of independence and awareness. So yes, to be empowered as a sexually human being is a revolutionary act that transforms the world around you. There's a reason why there's so many lockdowns in societal spheres around why sexuality is locked down. So just to get the overview about that, to understand that there's a bigger scheme to this. On top of all that, there's and it enters into your private space. Like, we are conditioned beings from all around us. There's the body, which is instinctual, and then there's the conditioning, which is the mind from the culture that you're in. The language. We don't even have a language, the vocabulary to express our sexual expression around us, right? You know, so just by talking about sex, as you've so noted earlier, your body starts to lock up, the words don't come. So the first practice is just talk about sex. Be honest about the fact that you're horny. Have community and friends around you. It's like, wow, I'm really horny today. Really, and just like let it out, you know? And the first thing I'm going to ask both of you is, how is your love life with yourself? You know, how are you honoring and self-loving? Because lovemaking actually occurs with loving yourself, not just on as a concept, but on a physical, tangible level. Like, how are you masturbating, right? How are you making love to yourself?
Lizzie, we'll let you go first.
Okay. Well, I would say that right now in my life, I've been trying to cultivate more of a self-love space. And one way that's been showing up has been in the home I live in. I moved up a few months ago. I moved up to a nice house in the hills near Berkeley, where there's a lot of nature and kind of a space for me to just access nature more easily, have it where I live, and in my room, kind of just take time out to burn candles and incense, or read, or give myself massage, or whatever I want to do. And of course, sometimes, you know, masturbation, that happens. I think, though, that I could take more time out to be more luxurious with that sort of thing, and maybe to not just make it about, as I was saying earlier, not just make it about the climax, but paying attention to, like, on every level, what turns me on, what brings my body alive, what makes me feel sensual and open. And I feel like I'm at the beginning of like a new level of self-discovery with that right now. Just having this conversation, I think by the time we come back next month, who knows, I'll probably have more to say about this topic. But right off the bat, that's pretty much what I can think of to say.
It's where you're at, and that's perfect. Thank you for sharing. Let's see. I have had a major epiphany around this month, actually, and that involved me really understanding that I was projecting the needs that I wanted to that were within me onto other people for them to do for me. Like I was feeling like I wanted to be touched. I was feeling like I wanted to be loved, and I was projecting that not just onto everyone, but onto my dream of Prince Charming. Like, Prince Charming is going to rescue me. Like, I need someone to rescue me from this place because there's nothing I can do. And I had a huge epiphany recently around, I just need to love myself in every facet, in every way, physically, just like Lizzie was saying, with like really nurturing myself and coming from that place. And of course, this is something that intellectually I know, and I've read it a lot in a lot of different books, but I think I started to really own that. Like, I'm responsible for that. It's not some guy. It's not someone else. I'm responsible for taking care of that in me. And how unfair is it to place that on someone else, place that big weight? Like, you've got to not only take care of you not only have to have your stuff together, but you've also got to take care of me. That's unrealistic. It's totally unrealistic, and I really got that. That's why I haven't had a wonderful relationship in the last 10 years, or one that I could say, oh yeah, it was so great and whatnot. I was doing that, and so just really being committed and centered. Even now, I'll catch myself. I'll be walking down the street and I'll see a man that's attractive, and I'll say, oh, look at him. Oh, he might be really great for me. And then I'm like, just right there, I stop myself. I'm like, whoa, because I can feel my energy moving into that old pattern. Not to say that I don't see someone who's attractive and think, maybe they might work for me. Yeah, of course, but it's just about really having boundaries with myself and not getting into that old pattern of codependence, really. It's really being dependent in myself and then aligning myself with someone else like that, and we're coming together and creating a relationship. So on a physical level, though, quickly, I'll say that I will candidly share that for a long time with my taking care of my own needs physically, I've been kind of like having self-quickies. Like, okay, great, like, let's just do this. Like, I got a bunch of work to do, but let's just, like, crank it out. And I've been wanting to have more sacred time with that. And so that's another epiphany I have, is that's really loving myself physically. And so I've been doing that. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, this is actually a common story that I hear. You know, most people have a tendency that when they're self-loving, that they're actually not. Often it's like a sneeze. They want to just itch. They want to let it go, and then they have that pleasant sensation afterwards, and that's done. And there's something to be said about the quickies. You know, there are times when we need the quickie. What I would encourage is to have more sacred quickies, which is a whole different topic. But I just want to say that we are born from sex. We are sexual human beings. If you look around you, everywhere, the whole world around you is pulsating with contraction and expansion. Your blood is pumping from a contraction and expansion. Your breath is happening because the diaphragm is pulling down and your lungs are expanding and contracting. If you just tune in to the pulse of life, the orgasmic state of being naturally starts to occur. And there's a sense of impulse. Like if you've ever had an impulse of self-love, where you've had deep empathy, understanding, and compassion for your journey in life, that impulse is an opportunity. an opportunity to self-love. And if you approach yourself in touching your genitalia that way, something profound happens. People have no idea what they're doing when they're masturbating. When you're masturbating, it is a deep programming of your nervous system. So much is going on inside you. It is one of the most profound, powerful hypnotic states that you can ever put yourself into. The thoughts that you're thinking right before you go into that act, the thoughts that you're thinking right after that act, are tremendously, deeply, on a cellular level, woven into your system. For most of you, if you just take a moment and do like a rewind about all the thoughts that you've had right before you masturbated, you might be shocked. And not surprisingly, start figuring out what all these mysterious challenges are in your life, because they have been programmed through your love play with yourself or others. If you learn how to start really loving yourself, how to really think about the vision and the purpose of your life, as you start going into self-love play, I promise you, many things will start to come online that you never thought possible. This, by the way, is the premise to what a lot of people call sex magic, right? It feels like magic because on a biological level, so many things are going on. Your entire endocrine system lights up like a Christmas tree, going straight from the root chakra all the way up to the top of your head, which is responsible for all your emotions, which, by the way, are the very thing that make you feel the meaning and the excitement of life, right? On a nervous system level, you have almost 5,000 miles of nerves in your body. All that starts to light up like a Christmas tree. You become a receiver of the current of life around you in such a profound way when you are lit and are actually activating your sexual force. People start to notice you more, right? And there's a way that even with ourselves, we tend to hide from ourselves. So I would encourage both of you to take your time, be more sensual, be more sacred, be more loving, and watch the thoughts you have before the self-love act. Treat it as a meditation. Treat it as a sacred moment in time. And I want to say this, because this is lacking. There's Western sexuality, and then there's Eastern sexuality, and then there's sacred sexuality. There's so much in this. A little bit too much to share in the portion of the show that we have. But I have to say that in the West, everybody's focused on the orgasm. But what they miss is that there's also a valleygasm. Now, what most people a lot of people talk about how they enjoy post-coital napping. Like after a sexual experience, they like to nap. What they don't realize is there's another orgasm happening. There's a valleygasm, and it's a longer gasm. It is a more potent, more powerful gasm. The peak experience, all of us, regardless of our biology, have masculine and feminine forces inside us. In the Orient, they call that yin and yang. Yin would be expansive, yang would be contractive force. Cultures have given yang more of the masculine terminology, expansive force more of the feminine terminology. But without going into energetic anatomy, I can just tell you this, that the peak of the orgasm is the masculine. The valley of the orgasm is the feminine. And we are living in a patriarchal culture that screwed both men and women up in many missing functions as human beings. We have a lot of functions that are lacking. And the more you access that valleygasm, the more you give yourself space to really just close your eyes and surrender after that orgasm, the more access you will have to sensitivity, to your emotional intelligence, and to everything that comes with the feminine. So there's this combination of the two. A full body orgasm occurs through just that, the whole body experiencing it. Most people, when they experience an orgasm, experience a genital orgasm, which is profound in its own right, but it's more like a sneeze of your genitals. Orgasm could be so much more than that. When it comes for women, most women, if they've had the most amazing orgasm that they've ever had, in the Taoist culture, that's about a level 4. There are 9 levels of orgasm that is a potential in a woman's body, right? Women have twice as many feel-good receptors on their clitoris than men do on the head of their penis. And I'm not even going to go into all the challenges that many men have with the concept of circumcision. Like what many women need to get is that it's like, in order to enlist some empathy and understanding from women about the circumcision that is just commonplace in our culture, is that, like, imagine your hood of your clitoris being pulled up and getting snipped off. There are nerves in that tissue that when men are circumcised that add pleasure to men, and there's so much going on, so many trauma points around that. But I'm giving the signal that we're already running out of time. Just one last little tidbit to add to all this. Take your time, and at least once a week, give yourself the space and the time to really experiment with a new sense of pleasure that can come about your body. How are you ever going to educate a new potential partner in love play about your pleasure if you don't know it yourself?
Oh, I love listening to you talk. So now we're going to get into our closing circle, and we're going to talk about. Let's see. Are we going to share one thing that we would like to?
The closing circle is a great way. It's a model for how you disengage. So when you connect with somebody, it has its own technology. That's what we do the opening circle about. But after you've made a connection, there's also a technology about how to disconnect from people. And in many cultures, they've done a closing circle as a way to teach the community how to disengage when it's time. So what I love doing for a closing circle is share something that moved you, and share something that you learned that you'll take away with you. Right? So let me demonstrate. So what moved me from our show today is the courage and vulnerability both of you shared about what you're going through in your life. I know how that's not easy, and I know that we don't live in a culture that makes it easy for us to share. And I hope it gives the courage to many other people to do the same, because it's in the communication that our healing starts. What I learned today, I learned that sexuality needs to be honored, celebrated, and talked about more often. And I'm willing to take on the strange looks and the weird things that I have to go through with people, and stay in conversation about sexuality in the world.
Yes, I learned, what moved me was the intimacy that we created here today, and just sharing ourselves and being vulnerable, similarly to what Tahil said. And what I learned is that I feel very comfortable talking about this, and I reignited my passion to share what we are talking here about today with you all. I learned that I'm very passionate about sharing this, similar to you.
Today I was moved by the smooth transitions and flow between the three of us, and I just felt like this show is very balanced, and it really well balanced both intimacy, our ability to be intimate with each other and vulnerable, and also just a sharing of wisdom and knowledge. And one thing I learned was just a reminder about the importance of self-love, and also the importance of relaxing.
Welcome to the conversation. You're listening to the Revolutionary Romance After Show.
Oh gosh, wow. So I'm there was so much that came up for me in the first part of that show that I wanted to share, and I wish I would have had a notebook because there was so much that I wanted to talk about, and now I can't remember all of it. But I think the first thing that I want to mention and share with everyone is that I really got, especially within myself, but I think within all of us, especially, no offense to this religious group, but especially to people who are raised Catholic, which is me and Lizzie. Yeah. Is that there's been so much bastardizing of anything sexual. Like anything sexual. And it's so subconscious, and I think Lizzie would agree. It's so subconscious that even when we go to masturbate or we want to like move our hips and like get crazy on the floor or something, by get crazy, I meant dance. Let me just say that. Yeah. I just want to.
It's called getting crazy when you're raised Catholic because it's sinful almost to do so.
Yeah, to dance, right? Yeah. So love Catholic people. Just for me, don't love the whole making sex wrong, because I definitely don't believe that. And so I just thought that was great. But then I also thought how perfect and how wonderful that our entertainment and our media is, like, that's where people get their sex from, or that's where a lot of people are drawn to these entertainers. And like I was thinking about Madonna, like look at how much success she's had because she just owns her sexuality in a culture that's like, what are you doing? You're crazy. Like, why would you do that? And I think that's why people have a lot of respect for certain entertainers and pop stars, because they're like, no, I don't care about this. Like, this is who I am, and I'm sexual, and I'm going to show it to you. So I just thought that was interesting in talking about our sex here today, and how a lot of those pop stars, I know, just because I read a lot about them, are very sexual with themselves, and they're very comfortable with that within themselves, and so it naturally just exudes. And when you said, Teal, that we're drawn to people, I thought, wow, well, there's so many people drawn to these famous people. Like, wow, they're doing a great job of that. So, anyways.
So there is magnetism, and then there is charisma, right? Charisma comes from the peak of the orgasm. Magnetism comes from that valleygasm I was talking about earlier. So if you want to be more penetrating in the world, if you want to be more active in the world, be more dynamic in the orgasmic state of peaking in your orgasm. If you want to be more alluring and more enticing in the world, take time with that valleygasm.
I just want to say quickly, I'm so excited to be experiencing a lot more valleygasms.
Welcome to the conversation. You're listening to the Revolutionary Romance After Show.
Oh gosh, wow. So I'm there was so much that came up for me in the first part of that show that I wanted to share, and I wish I would have had a notebook because there was so much that I wanted to talk about, and now I can't remember all of it. But I think the first thing that I want to mention and share with everyone is that I really got, especially within myself, but I think within all of us, especially, no offense to this religious group, but especially to people who are raised Catholic, which is me and Lizzie. Yeah. Is that there's been so much bastardizing of anything sexual. Like anything sexual. And it's so subconscious, and I think Lizzie would agree. It's so subconscious that even when we go to masturbate or we want to like move our hips and like get crazy on the floor or something. By get crazy, I meant dance. Let me just say that. Yeah. I just want to.
It's called getting crazy when you're raised Catholic because it's sinful almost to do so.
Yeah, to dance, right? Yeah. So love Catholic people. Just for me, don't love the whole making sex wrong, because I definitely don't believe that. And so I just thought that was great. But then I also thought how perfect and how wonderful that our entertainment and our media is, like, that's where people get their sex from, or that's where a lot of people are drawn to these entertainers. And, like, I was thinking about Madonna. Like, look at how much success she's had because she just owns her sexuality in a culture that's like, what are you doing? You're crazy. Like, why would you do that? And I think that's why people have a lot of respect for certain entertainers and pop stars, because they're like, no, I don't care about this. Like, this is who I am, and I'm sexual, and I'm going to show it to you. So I just thought that was interesting in talking about our sex here today, and how a lot of those pop stars, I know, just because I read a lot about them, are very sexual with themselves, and they're very comfortable with that within themselves, and so it naturally just exudes. And when you said, Teal, that we're drawn to people, I thought, wow, well, there's so many people drawn to these famous people. Like, wow, they're doing a great job of that. So anyways.
So there is magnetism, and then there is charisma, right? Charisma comes from the peak of the orgasm. Magnetism comes from that valleygasm I was talking about earlier. So if you want to be more penetrating in the world, if you want to be more active in the world, be more dynamic in the orgasmic state of peaking in your orgasm. If you want to be more alluring and more enticing in the world, take time with that valleygasm.
I just want to say quickly, I'm so excited to be experiencing a lot more valleygasms. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to lots more of that. And actually, that was something when I was younger I did every day. I would masturbate at night, and I would give myself that valleygasm. And it was so wonderful. I felt like, and it would be like 40 minutes of just lying there. And I did it every day. I can't believe I did it every day. But when I was a kid, or I shouldn't say when I was a kid, I really did. I did it every single day. Like that whole routine. And it took me like an hour. Sometimes way longer. But what I noticed, like growing up, I wouldn't say I was popular or anything, but like I had tons of friends. People were always attracted to me, and I would still say that's true now. But I notice a difference, a way bigger difference. Like adults, everyone was interested in me when I was a teenager. Like they were just drawn to me. They wanted to know about me. And now I find, being busy CEO and woohoo, like that has been lessened. I just noticed that. No judgment on myself. Just noticed that. And so it's interesting learning about this thing called the valleygasm. I'm so excited. I'm just so excited to be experiencing my valleygasm.
I'm interested, Teal. Teal, I'm interested. So the valleygasm you're saying is mostly after the orgasm. Would you say there is an aspect of valleygasm happening before orgasm as well?
So remember how I said many people experience like a genital sneeze as an orgasm. What happens when you sneeze is that everything you stop thinking. It's like basically you're going into your whole body shuts down and starts. It's a jolt through your whole system. Same thing happens in an orgasm. The peak of the orgasm lasts like maybe a second or two, and then done. Now, you can extend your orgasm to the extent that you are relaxed before it happens. Many people literally rush to orgasm. Many people actually, the quickest, fastest way to rush an orgasm is to stop breathing. Now, when you stop breathing, the reason why you stop breathing is because anytime you stop breathing, it intensifies the sensation, right? So, like when you're in a scary movie and you go, and you hold your breath, what you're doing is you're intensifying your fear, which stimulates your adrenal glands, which makes you feel excited that you're scared, because some people get numbed out and then they love all these scary movies, right? Same thing happens in orgasm. If it's like you're rushing for the prize. So your breathing gets faster, and then you stop breathing, and it intensifies the experience, and poof. You don't let it happen organically and naturally. And so because there's this goal-oriented, again, it's this subtle patriarchal culture, BS stuff, where it's just locked into our conditioning, that we need to rush this. But if you really take your time, and you really focus on the pleasure, the joy of feeling good, and not have the orgasm as a goal, but as a pleasant and yummy surprise. And really just keep focusing on the pleasure, and keep breathing deeply, and keep moving with how much pleasure you can experience in your body. The orgasm that occurs from that is a very profound orgasm. It is a full body orgasm that anatomically involves all of your auricular musculature. Men have 9 auricular muscles in their body. Women have 10. There's auricular musculature is the muscle that you see around your eyes, your ears, your nostrils, your mouth, your anus, the genitalia, right? For women, they have an extra one, right? Right. Now, to have a full body orgasm, what occurs is that all of those auricular muscles contract and expand at the same time. So one of the secrets in Taoist lovemaking, right, with self-pleasure and with making love to others, is to kiss all the auricular muscles or touch all the auricular muscles in your body to really activate that pulsing sensation that occurs, right? So by the time you get to the genitalia, it's a added bonus. Like your whole body is already in orgasm, right? And so I think the lack of communication around sex is also there's a lack of understanding sexual anatomy, and just like, I mean, there's been such this huge war, like for women, there's been huge war of secrecy around the clitoris and around the G-spot. The latest research is showing that clitoris and G-spot are actually interrelated. And very few women know that there are actually clitoral legs that sprout from the clitoris down the sides of the lips that need to be stimulated as well. There's so much that needs to be addressed in the female genitalia, you know, and that in the Orient, there are different parts of the genitalia that relate to the entire body, the entire endocrine system, right? It's just like your feet and hands are reflexology of your whole body, your genitalia is the reflexology of your whole body, right? And many women don't do, especially when it comes to self-pleasure, don't do enough internal self-pleasuring, right? And you know, when I teach men how to work on women, you wait for the flower to open, and there are Panama Canal within the woman's genitalia that opens slowly. You know, if you take your time with yourself, the genitalia swells, and the lips start to part and open as that happens. The clitoris starts to rise and gets more swollen. Your anus starts to flutter. All of your auricular musculature starts to flutter, all right? And your fingers will literally start getting pulled inside of you, right? So touching your clitoris and start touching your G-spots are really important. But having a great dildo is really important, right? For full pleasure. There are ways where you can strap the dildo to your ankle and pull it inside you while you use both your other hands into working your lips and your clitoris and so on. You know, start getting creative. I mean, I've had a lot of sex. I mean, a lot, and I've had a lot of amazing lovers. No one comes close to me. I have such an amazing love affair with my own body. Seriously, like I'm an amazing tantric lover with myself. I can go for hours and not stop because, and it's that self-loving sexual experience with myself that allows me to share with my lovers how to reach my peaks of pleasure, right? And I encourage all the partners that engage with me to learn about their bodies. They have regular self-pleasure experiences so that they know how to teach me, because nobody knows your body better than you. It's a very intimate act, right? Others can come close, but they shouldn't be better. If they are, then you're not spending enough time with yourself. And for men, especially gay men, it's really important to get to know your anus as well as your penis. And there's a deep, just like the clitoris and the G-spot are interrelated, the tip of the penis and the anus, like the prostate gland, are interrelated. And there's this really cool thing in the Taoist culture where you can stimulate the prostate gland indirectly. It's called the $1 million point. There's an acupressure point between the genitalia and the anus. And in the peak of orgasm, if you press that firmly, you can actually feel the prostate contracting and expanding. And if you press it, you feel the rush of pleasure going up your spine, right? So there's a way that you can practice coming to the edge and back, coming to the edge and back. And after a while, you can, like, the most pleasurable sensation of the orgasm will be experienced without the release. In the Orient, they value semen as an incredibly potent force of energy. Right? Go ahead.
Well, gosh, where do I begin? So, first of all, I want to say that that's actually how I masturbate. Yeah. I started doing that recently after a good friend of mine shared with me that philosophy about not expunging the semen, and that it creates a lot of. If you do that a lot, and if the semen is constantly being expended, that can tax the body. And I thought, well, of course, me being health-minded, like, no, that's not going to happen to me. I'm going to find a way around it. And I did, and I do what you say to a T. And I'll just say for all the guys listening out there, it is incredible. Highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. And I even just while you were talking about do you pronounce it olfactory glands or auricular musculature? My whole body was like convulsing, and Lizzie was holding my hand and laughing at me. She's like, "Okay, Gabe, you're gonna be okay. Like, just make it through the show on sex." Yeah, and Yeah, so I wanted to share that it's really great if you're a guy, or if you know a guy, let him know that it's pretty wonderful. Yeah.
So there are many different relation points in the genitalia, but I just want to say that the chakra system, right, is also interrelated to the genitalia in men and women. But it's a little different. So with men, the first chakra is found at the base of the penis, right? Right? And just so for the audience, in case you don't know about the chakra system parallels the endocrine system. So you start from the base and you work your way up. And the endocrine system is responsible for all the hormones that make you feel emotions and moods, and actually is responsible for the health of your whole body, right? So the first chakra, the primal issues of tribe and family and community, all happen at the base of the phallus. The second chakra is found right above that on the phallus. By phallus, it's a Hindu name for penis, right? So the second chakra is found right above that. So your actual sexual issues, your creativity, your ingenuity is found right below that. Right in the middle of the phallus is where your power lies, right? And then right above that is your heart, and right above that, right underneath the ridge of the head, right, is your fifth chakra that deals with truth and communication, right? So actually, you can actually, when you're touching yourself, you can actually work on your chakra system, work and heal your entire spiritual body and your chemistry and your hormones by focusing more on those areas, rubbing that, feeling the pleasure of that, noticing if that area in your phallus is lacking pleasure, because if it's lacking pleasure there, then chances are that chakra is stagnant and not moving, and that's something to work on, right? And it allows you to open up into pleasure. Many men have dead zones in their phallus, in their penis, where the pleasure is just not moving. So what allows these really cool diagnostic diagrams of our genitalia is that it gives you more detailed way to really build the pleasure of your phallus, which in turn builds the pleasure of your entire spine, which in turn builds the pleasure of your whole body, right? And in women, it's the opposite. So the base of like the clitoris and the G-spot area, that is your first chakra. So imagine this. The clitoris and the G-spot is your primal source. It is where primal traumas lie, right? It's exposed out into the world. That's why the female body tends to be more vulnerable. You understand? It's like in that way, because it's like it's the most primal space. It's the first chakra. It's like boom, there it is, right? Then right a little bit deeper inside the vaginal canal is the second chakra. A little mid-canal is the third chakra. And fourth chakra is like three-thirds of the way in. So when you're working with the dildo, you work in increments. You work with how deep you go inside the vaginal canal to what chakra you're working on, right? And there's up, down, side, 4 quadrants. Many women experience pain inside their vaginal canal, right? Though it's like knots. It's a little muscular knot around various chakra systems that are blocked and locked. And what I encourage straight culture to do is, like, when a man and a woman come together, is that they literally, like when you find a tennis spot, instead of locking up, I tell them to both relax and actually with their phallus massage that tense spot inside the vaginal canal, which then opens up, and then there's extreme pleasure that just bursts out from the inside the vaginal canal, because that tight spot actually becomes now a new opportunity to feel pleasure, and the inner orgasm starts to build even further, and you just work your way down. Same thing holds for men in anal cavity. So men have this beautiful, and for women, there's a front and a back. For women, their anal canal is more stimulating. For men, it's more relaxing. Because there's a polarity that occurs between the biology of men and biology of women. Again, I'm hoping that I'm inspiring you guys to be more experimentative and explore the one, like a never-ending wonder of your own biology and the possibility of pleasure that goes along with it. So I'm curious about what comes up for you as I talk about all.
Wow, a lot comes up for me. And well, for one thing, when you were talking about female anatomy and the clitoris and G-spot being like the first chakra, that really resonated for me. I almost even talked about that during our main show. I guess I just want to talk about how, as I've been starting to reconnect with those areas a little more, it stimulates my whole body in this very like rightful, like how I experience it. It's like root chakra up. The Kundalini thing, like I really, it feels like that energy that people talk about with Kundalini energy really gets activated by working with, by working more with my clit and G-spot and just opening up those areas and releasing, like, I think, wounds and pains that have been, like, stored down there. And it feels like unlocking those areas, it's essential. It's like the foundation. So unlocking that, it's like I can move from the ground up, sort of thing. And I noticed that as I move energy in those places, it's been setting off a lot more just like electrical energy just through my whole body and through my limbs and through my fingertips and my toes, and it's very powerful. And also it's very interesting that you were talking about the chakra system going all up into the vaginal canal, or I almost want to give that a better word, but I guess that describes it. Because I just never thought about that. I know, like, deeper inside of me, I get more sensitive. Like I get bothered. Like, things can start to hurt. So maybe that's an upper chakra thing for me. It's definitely an upper chakra thing for me. I just thought, oh wow, I just can't go that deep or something. I just thought, oh, okay, if something gets hit and things just end off there. Like, different girls can fit more or less. I didn't realize, no, it's probably a chakra and a block that's getting hit.
It's an opportunity of pleasure that hasn't been accessed. It feels counterintuitive to work with something that's painful inside of you. But if you do, like, it's a gentle prodding and opening. It's just like, you're a massage therapist. It's like if you hit a tender spot, right, and then you work it out, then the person relaxes. If you do that inside of you, a whole new form of pleasure will start opening. It's amazing. I can't wait for you to experience that. And by the way, this will create alchemy in your own life. Whatever pain you're going through in your life, I promise you, something on the inside of you, that alchemy, that shift inside of you, will also start happening on the outside of you.
I think it's really interesting how, really anything, but it's just interesting for me to note that sex really parallels my life. and the sexual being that I am parallels that. I just think that's really cool, and I loved when I heard you talking about using masturbation as a meditation and all the different chakra points. I definitely had heard about the penis having different chakra areas, but it was really great to hear that is also true in women. And then, anally, that was going to be my next question. You kept answering my questions. In my head, I was thinking, so do women have that? And you talked about women. And then I thought, well, how about gay men? Is the anus like that? And then you answered that. And I was like, wow, okay. I'm just going to be psychic host here today. But I was really inspired by hearing your story of having tantric sex with yourself. And I thought, wow, I think I would like to try that. I would like to experience that, just because I kind of did that with myself to some extent when I was a younger teenager. And I had noticed then when I would do that, versus when I didn't, that it's like my skin would glow. I was so light. Everyone thought I was cute. Like, it was just like life became easier, strangely. It became easier and more flowing, and my body felt better. And I'm 30 now. Yay, woohoo. I made it through my 20s, but in my 20s I kind of just got really stressed and stopped breathing as much, and my point is that I have been wanting to implement that back into my life for a very long time. A very long time. And I think now would be a really great time to do that, especially being on the show and talking about it and sharing my experience. And I feel like that doing that might also really help me with my cravings for intimacy with other people. And it will invite it more, because I'll be more in touch with myself. I'll be more holistically fed, I guess, and that will then, of course, just like we were talking about, it will attract other people to me. And it's not like it's about that, but it's really just taking care of myself, taking care of my needs, so that I'm not being codependent on others.
Exactly right. I mean, I meet so many hungry people, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and the first question I always ask them is, how's your relationship with yourself? You know, it starts with yourself, and then it mirrors out into relating with other people. And, you know, once you get really clear about your relationship with yourself, the calling card that you have a great relationship with yourself is that you have clear, well-defined deal breakers that are honoring the person in front of you, because they're tempered with wisdom and understanding, right? People start respecting you for knowing what you want, not hating you for knowing for what you want. You know, it's only a halfway point of getting to know yourself if you're finding that the people around you are saying that you have too many deal breakers. A lot of people deal break themselves out of connecting at all, right? That's only a midway point. It's a great start, but it's a midway point. How you know you've really gotten to know yourself and how you have developed an ease of connecting with yourself is that you know your deal breakers and people thank you for knowing them. They actually want to hang out with you because it's your boundaries and your pacing is clear and straightforward. There's not a lot of guesswork around you. You know, there's an ease about you.
Yeah. Okay. So I love pop culture, and it just keeps coming up for me because I think it's the culture of popularity. It's what is most popular, and I have this book in my bathroom of quotes by Madonna, and one of her quotes, and I thought of it as you were saying. One of her quotes is, "I'm tough, I'm ambitious, and I know exactly what I want, and if that makes me a bitch, okay." And I'm just like, yeah, like you do know exactly what you want, and like you own it, and people respect that about you. Like they've called you the queen of pop for how long? Just because you know what you want. And like, what if I could bring that into my relationship life, like into well, really all areas of my life? And what would that look like if I just knew exactly what I want and I was really clear? And I said, yes, this is what I'm clear about, so that you're aware that this is what I want, and I won't settle for less.
Exactly. Yeah. And so this is why I start with self-loving exercises first around sexuality, because then it becomes easier to engage with other people around sex. It holistically addresses that unconscious permissioning that happens more often than a lot of people are comfortable with. You know, and it's one of those taboo subjects. It's those elephants in the room that most people don't talk about, as to why sexuality is not as freely and healthily expressed as possible. I can't tell you how often I have women coming to me as clients and saying things like, I just gave up on dating. I gave up on being sexy because I don't want to attract the wrong guy, right? And one of the things that I work on with them is around around the dynamic of pacing and boundaries. Because the moment they own that, they're not afraid of attracting the wrong guy, because then they can say no. You understand? And it's remember all those missing functions I talked about earlier? Well, like in the culture of women, there's not a lot of vocabulary around power, boundaries, pacing, which is really important as women reclaim that. There's a sense of sexiness that could be reclaimed in women, because there's not this fear of like, oh my God, the wrong guy is going to be attracted to me. It's okay. You could be the life of the party. You can be the diva. You can be the starlet that walks in and just shines the room. And if someone comes to you that you're not particularly interested in, you say, oh, thank you so much, right? But no, thank you, right? And you move on and you go towards the person that is interested in you. Right, and I think a lot of the people that you talk about are like, you're looking towards women that are empowered around that pace and power dynamic of knowing what they want, right? In the culture of women, women are policed with the S word and the B word. If a woman's empowered in her sexuality, she's called the S word. If a woman's empowered in her power and knows her pacing and boundaries, knows her purpose, all of a sudden women police each other with the B word. It's horrible. It's just a horrible derivative that came from the patriarchal culture that we live in. It's just horrendous. It's one of the things I work on in terms of sharing. First of all, sharing of that this happens, and empowering women that you have to confront other women calling you the B or the S word, and say, "Excuse me, no." And in that, a deep healing is going to start happening in the culture of women. And with men, it's the H word. In the straight culture, it's the H word. It's like homophobia. It's like if you're called a woman in the straight culture of men, it is a derogatory word that your masculinity gets challenged. And men, especially sensitive men, right, don't have a vocabulary that was given to them to express their emotions, right? So they look towards women to find those emotions, and something gets lost in the translation. Men need to find mentors with men in about what full spectrum of emotions look like. Women need to find women with a sense of healthy pacing and power, so they know what that looks like. And gay men need to find other gay men to see what healthy sexual expression looks like. I see you often quoting women, which is wonderful and powerful. I would love to see you quote older gay men who empower and support you and inspire you in your journeys. You understand, like what it costs us, I believe, in all the different orientations that we have, is that we don't have role models in our own orientation. Yeah. And I think there's something that is lost in translation if we look for it in other cultures. It's like we get excited that we have permission, like that culture has permission that we don't. But I think it's important that we find mentorship in our own orientations, so that it goes deeper inside us.
Yeah, I agree. That's great for just me to note. I was trying to think as you were talking. I was trying to think about who is my mentor, who could be my mentor, and yeah, it's slim pickings. I mean, there's definitely no one who at least is on the level of like Madonna or Lady Gaga, or someone who's like really owns their sexuality in the way that I am wanting to. That's a gay man that I know about yet. So if you're listening, you know of someone, please let me know, because I would love to have a mentor and follow them.
I believe he's a bisexual man, but I would recommend Reed Michaels. Yeah, he's one of the co-founders of Cuddle Parties, and I would check him out. You can Google him. You can start there. I think if I was a gay man, he'd be one of my superheroes.
Okay, I can do that. Is that my homework? Yeah, sure. Okay, because I also want to do the tantric thing with myself. So Tahil says, pile it on. Yeah, so I think that's gonna be my homework. Is I'll check out Reed Michaels, and maybe I'll see if I can do an interview with him or something. I think he would probably be open to that. And I will do a 2-hour tantric what do we call it? Tantric. I'll just call it a tantric meditation. I don't know what that will look like yet, but I'll do that with myself and report back on our next show. So I think that's what I'll do. Woo! Lizzie, do you want to what homework do you want to do? Anything coming to your mind?
Well, I was just thinking, I wonder, it would be interesting to see if I could find some, I guess, like empowered lesbian woman and speak with her, or,
Have you ever heard of Melissa Etheridge or Ellen DeGeneres? She says yes. I don't know. For me, Ellen is a pretty awesome role model. I don't know if that's feels right for you, but she's a really incredible human being that's like sharing light and love in the world, and she's like totally out, and the world loves her. I don't know. It's just.
Yeah, she definitely inspires me. I've enjoyed watching her shows a little more recently because I hadn't watched her much before. So let's see. It looks like Tahil has something. I need to be assigned. Apparently, I have trouble. I'm finding it challenging to assign myself because I might not do my own homework.
No, not at all, honey. I just want to keep it on topic around sexuality. I'd love for you to find a lesbian mentor that inspires you, that owns her sexuality. You know, this is the part that I think would really be powerful. Not just, you know, someone that's a mentor in your own orientation, but a mentor that's in your own orientation that owns their sex and is not afraid to share it or talk about it.
Yeah, that sounds like good homework for me. It makes me a little nervous because it's and I think that's a sign of good homework because it means I'll be getting out there and communicating and looking around, and it's kind of a logical next step for me because I've been tipping my toe in these waters. It seems like a good next step to see who's out there. Let's see. So we should probably give Tahil some homework.
Well, he did his homework last time, and I felt like he did a great job with that. Yeah. Do you want homework?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So he said he's always open to receiving that. Well. Yeah. You know, maybe we can just. Yeah.
So one of my primary reasons for loving and wanting to do homework is, again, I want to learn more and more about the queer culture, and since the topic today is about sex, I want to learn more about queer sexuality. Now, if like last time you gave me a really great movie to watch, I learned a lot. I think some of you talked about perhaps me coaching somebody of the same gender with you guys around how to pleasure you. I would love to do that, and I would be honored to take that homework on if you guys are up for it.
Yes, Tahil. I was talking to you about this earlier, and during the show I thought, oh, that's what I'm going to give him for homework, and then I forgot. So, yes, I think that'd be great homework, and some of what I've been exploring on a sexual level as far as touch, I was talking to you about this other woman who I was going to ask to explore that with, and it would be great to have you there, maybe do some coaching and see where we end up. And also, as far as what we were just talking about with connecting to desire and knowing for women, you know, knowing what they want and being empowered and all of that, that's something that has been getting really stirred up for me as I've been exploring more sexual touch and discovering what it's like to almost like research like what actually feels good to me and say, no, move a little this way, no, stroke a little more that way. I never felt in the past so much like I had the space to do that as freely, openly, neutrally. And now I'm getting more into situations where it's almost like it can still be sacred, but it's almost scientific too, or I'm doing it more from an energy of well, it's not about the other person. It's about what feels good to me, what would I love, and realizing that I don't have to be any one way. Just because I say move over this way, that doesn't mean that I have to be right about it and then be writhing over in pleasure. I asked for what I just want to see what it felt like. so I'm realizing that I can do that. And I think that's probably not just a me thing. I think that for women in general, it's connecting with that desire and the permission to just declare what we want or to explore or really do whatever. I think that on many subliminal and energetic levels, there's a lot that a lot of women don't have access to right now that we're, I think as a species, we're opening up to right now. The time is ripe to get into this stuff.
Okay, so I have a question. And my question is around what we're talking about. So, are you guys saying that y'all are going to get together? Lizzie, you're going to get together with another girl, and Tahil, you're going to be there, and you're going to coach the girl how to touch Lizzie, or just them both with each other?
Yes. In ancient times, there were people that were tantric masters, dakas, dakinis, which is a more modern form of tantra that came from Buddhist culture, even older than that, tantrikas coming from the Hindu culture from way back, over almost 10,000 years ago. When a young couple would marry, and there would be an old master that was a master in the arts of love. They would help guide that young couple in the beginning stages of their coupling, so they can teach them the arts of love, the depth and the wisdom and the arts of love that could be tempered with the passions that they have, so they can have that full spectrum loving, which would deepen their love over time, right? And so in modern times, we've been so disconnected from wisdom and understanding around sexuality and the love and the intimacy that can come along with it. And I love being the surrogate, that bridge of empathy and compassion and all the things I've learned around sexuality with couples, right? And I have worked with same orientation couples before, and I can't wait to share and empower you guys around that.
So, my next question. By the way, I'll say that I'm also totally up for that. Then how are we going to find people to do that with? Do you know people or what? Okay.
Okay, so I guess I'm referring for myself to a bit of a specific practice that I'm just starting to delve into, called orgasmic meditation. And I'm not going to go away into the details of it, but it's something I'm exploring and that I'm learning about at One Taste, the organization I talked about earlier. And I am getting a little bit of coaching there. So I had an assignment to actually practice some of what I'm learning there with other people in my life, and to ask them to practice this with me. It doesn't mean that I have to be in a sexual relationship with any of those people, but it does involve rather intimate touching. And the practice is very much aimed at being present to my body and really with healing myself a lot. It's more aimed at that, I would say, and with having more just more awareness and sensation in my body in general. And so I am already kind of on that path of just wanting to ask people and friends in my life who would be comfortable with doing this with me. And I had brought it up to Tahil earlier, and he seemed very interested and open to actually taking that to another level. And so I'm interested in what he has to offer as a coach, and with his DACA background, I think it'll bring a little more sacredness to the experience. And I guess I'll have to report back and see what happens.
Awesome. Good for you, Lizzie. I'm excited to hear about how that turns out for you. So, Tahil, I have a question about this homework for me. Could we, if we don't find somebody, could we just do it with me, just myself?
Yes, of course. And I was just going to say that. The most important part of this process is that you learn how to do self-pleasure with you, right? And if there's another person there, then you can explore and deepen that, right? Or you can also do it for yourself. One of the first things that I would... Yes. So the answer is yes.
Okay. Well, so one way or another, on our next show, you're going to be learning a lot about what me and Lizzie are going through with our love lives and our sex lives. It'll be, we've grown a lot since the last show, I must say. Now we're Our homework is at another level here. I wanted to say, though, about mentors, that for me, being a gay man, it would be difficult for me to relate to a mentor who's gay and very masculine. So, that's a very specific thing to be asking for, but I know it's out there. I know someone like that is out there. It's someone who's in their feminine energy as a man in a relationship and sex and all that stuff. So I just wanted to be really clear that that's really that would help me, then I think more so than a bisexual person or someone who's just like gay but maybe like doesn't identify with masculine or feminine, whereas I really identify with feminine. Like, that's me, that's my energy, most of the time anyways. So that's something that I would like to call in or get mentorship on, just that part of being in a male relationship and being that energy. Yeah. So I don't know if you have any.
I'm guessing you're getting clear as you talk about it, but you can always ask the listening audience to see if they want to blog about it or share some ideas that you have. And maybe for Lizzie, for Gabe, that if you have any ideas or people that you think that they should Google or find from, I think it would be great, because we want you to know that we know that you're there and you're in this room with us, and we know we're not alone. Please let us know that we're not alone.
We would love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Yes, we would. Let us know one way or another. You can go to the Realms Radio Facebook page, or you can find me on Facebook, Gabriel llhewellyn-ari, or Lizzie Rose, or Tahil. I'm sure if you just type in Tahil on Facebook, you're probably the only one. Or Tahil Gesyuk.
It's Tahil, right? You can find me on Facebook, or you can go to intimacyforum.com.
Yeah, let's definitely. Yeah, check out intimacyforum.com. And by the way, I think we'll just do a little shameless plug, because Tahil, he leads intimacy connection circles, he calls them. He leads a lot of different events in the San Francisco Bay Area that you can go to and really experience at a deep intrinsic level, connecting with another human being. And they're powerful. Just, I highly recommend his events. I've been to a few of them, and so has Lizzie, and we love them. And that's actually why, one of the main reasons I invited him to be on the radio, because it was really great. So if you're in the Bay Area, or if you're not, come to the Bay Area and check it out.
I just want to say those events, those intimacy, I call them affection and connection events, because I have other people, like sound healers and massage therapists and other presenters around affection and connection, co-facilitating those events with me. Those events are, sexuality is honored but not on the table, so it creates a safe, clear space for people to practice affection and connection in intimacy and vulnerability. They know that it's not going to be going into erotic space, but it's not so clinical that it's not like sexuality is not honored. It's honored, just not on the table. We are looking forward to, as the community grows around affection and connection, to leading other circles that have what we call raw food second base parties, where people can slowly introduce erotic energy along with the intimacy and connection. And the whole focal point is to, how do you introduce erotic energy without losing sight of intimacy and connection with other fellow human beings? And I think I speak for all three of us here. Is one of our visions for this is to create a safe, nurturing space where people can gently start to explore their erotic energy with queer culture and straight culture in the same room, so that we bear witness on a physical, tangible level with one another what that looks like, right?
And with that, I think so many people, queer people, straight people, so many people, bi people, have a lot of wounds around that, around same sex, or maybe even opposite sex. If you like, I know some queer people who have issues with straight people, and it's kind of bizarre. But I think that would be such a healing container for letting those go. And I think even just being in that room and witnessing it would be healing, very healing. And so that's of course that's what we're doing with this show. And we also want to take this out into the real world, or into the physical world, because this is still the real world. It's very real here, actually, but we want to take it into the physical world and do some healing there.
Yeah, we all need physical practice. It's one thing to get the intellectual stuff, like what we're talking is we're philosophizing, we're communicating about real things. But where this stuff really gets transformative is when you can feel it in your body, when you feel your palms sweating, when you feel your heartbeat quickening, and when you actually go out there and you do your own version of the homework that we're modeling for you every time we have the radio show. And in fact, if you did give yourself a homework assignment, I highly recommend that you blog with us and share with us what that looks like and what discoveries you've made, because we want you to be part of this experiment with us. Right? Again, we are always feeling you as we're talking on this show. We're with you.
I think there needs to be a Revolutionary Romance Facebook page.
I think so.
Yeah, I think we need a central place where we can gather and we can talk about this and just share about intimacy. And so I will take that on and start that. So look for that soon. I'm sure that we'll be advertising that on Realms Radio at some point. So yes. So I think that it's. Oh, do you want to say something? Okay.
If we have a little time, I don't want to. It's a very deep topic that I think is deserves its own show, right? But I want to touch base on trauma and sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse that occurs and how it relates to sexuality and in the bedroom. I think it's one of those shadows of sexuality world that doesn't get talked about very often. Like I said, 40% of us have been sexually, physically, or emotionally abused. And how that shows up in sexual expression is through trauma. Trauma locks occur through fight, flight, freezing, or dissociating. And what they found about trauma is that it's a physical, tangible nervous system function. Animals have trauma all the time. If an animal comes around the corner and there is a predator ready to jump on them, the animal shivers. And then that shivering is a trauma. The nervous system responds to a traumatic experience, it releases it, and then the animal moves on like everything is hunky-dory. If you take a polar bear and you shoot him with a tranquilizer dart, it's terrified that it got shot. It's running away from its captors. The first thing that polar bear does as it wakes up from that tranquilizer is finish out the run. That's also a trauma response. It is an extension of releasing the nervous system for what it needs to do. As human beings, we have trauma on a regular basis. The difference between those animals and us is we have all this cultured conditioning that goes along with us. So, you're a little kid, a car's coming by, you get freaked out, you want to shiver, you run away and jump away from the road, you go on the asphalt, on the sidewalk, you skin your knee, you start crying, and your mommy slaps your hand and says, "Stop crying, what are you doing?" Little boys don't cry. All of a sudden, a trauma starts to occur, and it gets locked down deep into your nervous system. 20 years later, the dots line up in a certain way. All of a sudden, and here's the key part, you respond greater than the situation warrants. It feels like an urgency and emergency in that moment, and all of a sudden you freak out just like you would when you were that 2-year-old or 3-year-old or 4-year-old, what have you.